You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Cyclone Tauktae, which continues to intensify along the western coast of India, now a Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and looks like soon we'll be getting towards Category 4 status as it draws towards the coast of Gujarat. It was very close to the coast just in the last few hours, as you can see on this satellite imagery. One of many different imageries that we'll probably be looking at during the course of this production. We are doing coverage on the cyclone this evening, Indian time, of course. There right now it's just after 7 p.m. And we've got serious issues with this storm. Winds, of course, as mentioned, exceeding 180 kilometers per hour sustained. Rainfall estimates in some areas could reach over 400 millimeters, and storm surge could be on the order of 2 to 3 meters. My name is Nathan Foy. You might be able to see me at some point on this stream, but it's not very important. I'm joined by my team at this hour, consisting of quite a few people actually. With me today are Joey, Kay, Walter, the King of Crabs, I think is your name there. I don't know if you have a different name. Noah, the phone expert, and Zhao Chen. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
Good evening. It's indeed evening here.
Let's begin with Kay. You're showing us some imagery right now. Hopefully when I press this button, this is how unrehearsed this is right now, this will work. And predictably it hasn't. In a moment you'll be able to see Kay's screen, which is showing us satellite imagery of the storm, but until then I don't know where it's gone, and it's about to appear. I don't know why that happened. There it is. Kay, go ahead. What's the latest on the storm right now? You've been watching it closely.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. The storm's continuing to improve in structure. The deepest convection is confined to the southern eye wall, and it's not been able to wrap around fully because of how near this storm is to land. If it were 30-40 miles to the west, it would probably be wrapping these pinks round and intensifying faster than it is. So it's a good thing that it's being slowed by some land interaction right now. But as you can see, it's tracking gradually away from the coast, and in 6 to 12 hours it shouldn't have this issue anymore, and we expect it to really go off the rails in terms of intensification.
That's not good at all. It's gone. It's intensified better than what you would expect, considering its proximity to the coast.
Absolutely, it's overperformed forecasts, and I feel we've been more aggressive than the officials, and it's blowing their forecasts out the water. We're doing
forecasted,
a bit better, but we're still not great.
They went with, what was it? Initially they went with a 105 knot landfall, and landfall is still about 30 hours away.
Last I checked it was about 25.
But at this point they're only saying that the storm would be probably high-end Category 1.
Yeah, and it's stronger than the peak forecast that they had, according to our estimates.
So there we are on that front. Let's take a look at Walter's screen, showing us radar, I believe. Yeah.
Yes, it was the radar image of Goa, if I made it correctly. You can see the radar image is looking pretty good for Taute. You can see some oranges in the western and southwestern side of the eye wall, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And the structure on the radar imagery has improved substantially since we were on the air yesterday. Of course, I don't think we've got a loop, have we, to be able to see it actually happen, but do you want to just describe how it happened?
When I was tracking this storm like 6 hours ago, it was the structure was improving obviously, but the orange side wasn't that deep and that strong around 6 hours ago. But soon after, the structure began to improve in not only in satellites but in radar. Specifically, you can see this image here.
Yeah, let's just, I was going to get something else up just for the moment ago. Let's see what else we're looking at on our screen share team right now. If you've got any questions for us, this is what we're here for. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. It's more, getting questions and answers out is more important than pretty much anything else, because serving the viewers. This right now we're just showing, whilst we're waiting for some imagery to load, this is the latest GFS model run showing the progression, the forecasted progression of the storm moving up the coast of India, making landfall in Gujarat, very close to, I think it's still very near Viraval, just to the east. That area really sticks out. And that on the forecast here, that landfall would be at, it's still loading some of it up, so it's a bit jumpy. Just getting that latest frame there on the landfall, something like, yeah, you're about right, Kay. Well, no, actually, about 30 hours, I think, is still the number, at least on the GFS model, but it could go quicker than that.
I was using the HWRF because that seems to have a bit of a better handle on the intensity.
What are they
which
saying?
Affects the track. The HWRF, well, that's basically what I based our most recent cone off of. Fairly similarly to HWRF, so if you're able to pull that up, it's a good representation of the model.
Okay, we'll try and get that in just a moment. For those who haven't seen our cone, where is it? I've got to try and find the cone that we've posted out now. The one that we did just an hour ago, yeah?
Yes.
So this was the cone, and you can see these are in 12-hourly intervals. Yep, 12-hourly
yes.
intervals, calling for, what's that, 150 mile an hour landfall, I think it just says on the side there. It's a little bit off the edge of our screen.
140 landfall.
Oh, but 150 before landfall, is it?
Yes.
Wow.
HWRF shows it weakening quite significantly shortly before landfall as it enters the shallow coastal waters and begins land interaction.
And there's no reason to say that that won't happen the way it's been going.
Yeah. Looking at how the HWRF initialized and how the storm's been developing, I had a choice between 140 and 145 for 12 hours. I went with 140 because, well, if I went 145, I'd have to go 155 at peak, and I didn't really feel like that was a good forecast at the time. But with how it's going right now, it might well be 145 by the time we get to 6 a.m. local time tomorrow.
All right, we're just looking at something else there. That again is the latest imagery from a decent sized sequence actually of images from RAM, and that's showing the storm's progression northwards and the eye really coming out in the later frames.
I think that's the whole progression of the storm from tropical depression to current Category 3 status.
It happened rather quickly.
Yeah.
When you look back at it, but particularly drawing attention to the later frames there, round about here, and you can see the eye really popping out there in those later frames. There was a question about the eye temperature. Don't suppose we've got any idea on what that might be.
I can do that.
Latest FY4A
Pardon?
has shown that the eye temperature is now around negative 38 degrees Celsius.
I get a
The
reading
last
of
time,
negative 25.
last time I probed
Negative.
the eye, I got a temperature of negative
Minus
21 degrees
22.
Celsius.
So quite a range of numbers coming out here.
They're pretty close to each other, and satellites vary from each other from their zenith angle and resolution.
That is
I got
true.
a negative 20. I'm probing now and have in the center of the eye around negative 21, negative 19, negative 20. So around negative 20 degrees Celsius.
And given those cloud tops going round, quite a few areas of minus 80, when it was intensifying, it was well into the minus 90s at times. The structure looks very good. And if the eye temperature goes into the positives, then you know you're in for something really big.
Absolutely.
Okay, whilst we're looking at that, those images on your screen right now, which area is it passing at the moment?
So down here is Goa, which has had some significant impacts and a couple of fatalities due to heavy rainfall and some winds. There's been significant wave and surge impacts all along the coast from this. And this area just here is Mumbai, which will be receiving at least tropical storm force conditions from this storm.
Yes.
We're expecting it to track more towards this way and make landfall around here, but it could easily stay closer to the coast and bring worse impacts to Mumbai, which is obviously a very large city.
I've got some distances now, actually, just to get some indications. So it passed Ratnagiri not long ago, its closest approach. It's now 58 miles from there. It's 57 miles from Ganpatipuli. No idea on the pronunciations, I'm afraid. 54 miles from Jaigad, which appears to be the closest place to the storm centre right now. 56 miles from Juhagar, and 69 from Dapoli. Regarding its distance from Mumbai, I'm trying to get a read on that. It's still some distance away. It's approximately 140 miles, which is about 220 kilometers, I think.
Do you have the distance from Ahmedabad?
Yes, that is 408 miles to the north of the storm center right now, so
And
about
I believe
650
that's
kilometers.
up here near the top of this gulf,
It's a bit beyond the top of the Gulf.
just off the top of the screen.
I think so, but we can only see part of your screen on ours, Kay, so you've gone further up than even
I'll
we
zoom
can
out
see.
then. Wait for it to load.
Yeah, there it is. It'll be up there. I mean, of course, you can get
Around
it
here.
to get it to display labels on that imagery too. By the way, so you could.
I have to find out how to do that.
It's at the top left hand side.
This? No, that's not it.
No. For whilst you look for that, I'll take some questions.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. So that's a better indication of all of those locations. Just getting some questions. There's been quite a few that have come in already. You can send them in. Obviously, very important that we take them. And if you've got any observations on the ground right now on the western coast of India or anywhere really in the proximity of the storm, anything you'd like to relay over the air, that's very important that we do that as well. Will it slow down at the time of landfall is a question here from Epsilon.
Yes. We're expecting it to continue accelerating for a short time as it moves off immediately, but then we're expecting it to slow down to slower than it is now as it rounds the edge of the high and turns off towards the northeast around landfall. So it won't be slow, it won't be stalling, but it'll be slower than right now.
And chances of it reaching category 5, that's a pretty Route 1 question there.
I'm
That's a pretty
afraid
tough
I feel like
question.
those are rising.
Yes, that is correct. So we really don't know at the moment because Models tend to be bad at forecasting storms with jet interaction, and we know that jet interaction will be coming in like from 6 to 12 hours as its polar outflow completely opens with the help of the jet streams. It's gonna intensify further, but we don't know exactly how far will it go.
I just want to show you this. This is the latest rainfall chart expectations. They are in inches, so I'll try and do conversions to millimeters. So you can see those yellow areas, that's around 5 inches, which is around 125 millimeters. Of course, most of the highest amounts are out at sea on the forecast as the storm moves between Mumbai and Gujarat. But around the landfall zone, the potential landfall zone, around 14 inches there as well. That's quite a bit. That's what, 350 millimeters, I think it is. And then further north, you can see that it stretches quite far inland, actually. Significant rain totals. Some significant locations further towards the northeast, perhaps even as far as Delhi, could get some substantial amounts of rain, perhaps. Let's see if we have any other questions just now. More questions about the eye temperature. Dry air intrusion into the eye from the land still giving the cyclone a bit of trouble, or is it over?
That would be a question for whoever's monitoring the radar.
It is currently free. So, but hours ago, it has been a huge problem that has been stopping the development of the storm. Right now, I think that radar shows the eye of the storm has completely closed for a few hours already, and because it's further away from land, it will be less of an issue.
Yeah.
Let's see if we've got any more. Oh, Walter, you're showing us an image right now. Is that the key messages? Or was it? So those are
Yes,
that.
the key messages that we uploaded to Twitter a couple of
So
minutes
this
ago.
was produced by another one of our members, Army. The text is a little bit off the screen there, so I'm going to read this out if you don't mind. That Cyclone Tauktae is likely to bring extreme winds to coastal and inland areas. These winds may exceed 140 miles per hour, which is 225 kilometers per hour. Taute is expected to bring a dangerous. You've switched it. I can't read it now. A dangerous storm surge of up to 3 meters or 10 feet in some areas, with potentially some locally higher values. Taute is expected to bring significant rainfall with it as it moves towards the coastline. Some locations may exceed 200 millimeters of rain. And preparations for major cyclone Taute should be rushed to completion as our latest forecast has landfall by Monday night. And that is indeed what we're looking at right now for the landfall to occur
Speaking
overnight Monday.
speaking of rainfall, I've got another image showing the expected rainfall of around the coast, and we can see a 200 millimeter on Chobari, which I spelled
Well, that's
correctly, which is
interesting because the indications we're getting is going to be quite a bit higher than that, about 350.
oh really? Oh, because this, I think it was the 12C statistics, so I think it will be a little bit outdated. But take this as an estimation or some sort.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to get some more things on my screen over here. In the meantime, let's swing it back to at least we can talk about the JTWC forecast cone for a little bit. And K, actually, when you look at that, they're expecting a 105 knot peak. We've already gone beyond that with our current estimates. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yes. Well, Dvorak has only recently started to improve in terms of estimates. We expect the JTWC will catch up quite a bit at 18Z and probably go either similarly to what we are now or a low end category 4. That would then bump up the landfall and peak by quite a bit. They went 100 knots at 12Z, which was 2 hours ago. So they're catching up, but they haven't been able to use the radar, we don't think, in their estimates. They've been limited to satellite only. That's why we were higher than them
Why is
for
that?
much of yesterday. Well, I just don't know if it's within their operating procedure to use
Okay.
non-American radar in their estimates.
That's an interesting point. Is dry air affecting it?
Dry air has affected it, but it's very hard to say whether it is right now. I think it's probably managing to keep it fairly well off.
mean,
There is a bit of subsidence in the western part outside the eye wall, but I'm not sure whether that's due to intense convection or whether there's actually some dry air trying to sneak in around the northwest side.
I just wanted to say there appears to be a little weak point in the eye wall, and that could be to dry air intrusion. But so far, the storm has been pretty successful. When there was a small downslope dry air intrusion, it has been pretty successful mixing this dry air out with convection. So I don't think the dry air will be a big factor in the storm's intensification phase.
Looking very interesting on that satellite imagery right now, and unfortunately in this area, Kay, the satellite imagery is how often?
It varies from satellite to satellite, but Meteosat, which is what this is, only gets an update every hour.
So back
I have
in
a
So these
satellite.
frames are
so
once an hour.
over here in the Indian Ocean, we're back to the 1990s for a while. Of course, there's also the Indian satellite, which I can't bring up at this end, but that will be doing infrared as well, although the infrared quality isn't. It's got the unenhanced, and its enhancements aren't very good compared to the one that you're looking at. Let's take some more questions. JTWC as of 9Z, which would have been Indian time
5 hours ago.
2:30 p.m. had wind speed of the cyclone at 90 knots, 105 miles per hour, whereas the Indian Meteorological Department as of 12Z still predicts maximum wind speeds of the storm at 85 knots tomorrow. And reasons for such the difference. Why is it so different between the agencies and even between us as well? And you
The
alluded to that a little bit.
IMD is ruled by their Dvorak, and their Dvorak is ruled by constraints. And I don't know if they ever break constraints on rapid intensification, apart from the most extreme examples. I think they might have done it with Unpun, but they're basically going to be held back by their own system until the system lets them go higher. But that's not to say proper preparations aren't being made. This is being taken very seriously, and in the end of the day, the preparations are what matter more than having an accurate forecast. If you prepare for something worse than what they're forecasting, which is how they treat it, they're probably treating this as if it's going to be a major, even if they're only forecasting a Cat 2. I presume that their forecasts will go up now that it's opening an eye and clearly at least a major cyclone. But proper preparations are being made. We're hearing information all the time about more and more people being put on alert or interaction to take people out of dangerous areas and make preparations for landfall. It seems like the right things are being done, which is good to hear.
Right.
I have done a recent probe on the eye temperature, and it appears that the eye is now over 0 degrees Celsius.
Whoa.
If 43 Fahrenheit. That's 43 Fahrenheit. That's around
43?
5 degrees.
Where have you gotten
That's 6
that
Celsius.
from? Which satellite is that on?
I've sent the website into the live output channel. That's the newest frame on Weather US.
What satellite is this?
That's Imagery.
And also, Nathan, if you can please do share my stream right here. I got the latest FY4A, which is updating a lot sooner, every 5 minutes, because it's in the China scanning range, so that it's a lot more frequent than the full disk. This is from
Right.
1330 Zulu.
Okay, you able to see that?
This EU Metsat that updates every 15 minutes,
Okay.
it's at a lower resolution, I think, than Meteosat that I was showing. So in Fahrenheit, that's about -5 15 minutes ago. What does it have for the frame I'm on? Yeah, it agrees with me for the frame that I'm on with Meteosat. And then you go forward 15 minutes and about -5, and you go forward again, and it is in the positives. That's startlingly quick clearing of the eye.
That's pretty shocking.
It's pretty normal for this stage of of development,
You can see it
but
there,
it should
45
be
Fahrenheit.
messing around with the ocean. But however, on the image that's currently showing, you can see a small break on the CDO. That is probably because the eye is trying to clear and so the connection weakened a bit. But once it completes this process, it should go. The connection strength should go back up again, and with a much more well-defined CDO.
Yeah.
So indications right now is that the storm is continuing to intensify. Would you say it's potentially rapidly intensifying again?
I believe it's been rapidly
The whole
intensifying
time?
since yesterday. From when it was a Category 1 onwards, it's been rapidly intensifying. If I go through our fixes briefly,
Around this
so it
time
was
yesterday.
gradually intensifying for a while. It held at, yeah, it was going up by 5 knots every 6 hours, which is a bit below rapid intensification, but still quite fast. And then it started jumping 10 knots every 6 hours between between 12Z yesterday, which is 24 hours ago, and 12Z today. It's intensified 40 knots in 24 hours, according to our estimates.
Yeah, and I've looked through the fixes as well, and we had yesterday. Wait. And now on 330Z we have 110 knots, and yesterday at 21Z we had 80 knots. So that's around 30 knots in 15 or 16 hours. So that has been rapid intensification.
So rapid intensification over the last 24 hours that appears to be accelerating in rate, if anything.
Yeah.
There's another radar image from Walter there. That's pretty current, 15 minutes ago. Can we read anything into that? Could it be a little break there?
I did note that there was some intense squall activity near to the radar, so it might be just that the eye wall's being blocked out by nearer convection.
Yes,
You can see
that's
there's those
quite
very
true.
bright oranges right around the radar.
More questions. Is this going to look like Niran? Is a question here.
I don't think so.
No,
For
definitely not.
starters, wrong hemisphere.
You have a small eye, isn't it?
30 nautical miles, roughly, the eye. Around 30. So that's not small.
Yeah, Niran had a very small eye that was bordering on pinhole.
Do we think it will reach Category 5 because of its rapid intensification? I know we had that question earlier, but do you think it will get there?
Rising.
That's
Given
a
current
difficult question.
trends, we'll probably be forecasting it to peak at 155 in a few hours with our next cone. unless the models say something else will happen, of course. We can't say what the models will do. But assuming current trends continue, it could definitely get very near to or exceed Category 5.
So that answers a few questions that were sent in there. People wanting to know as well how this compares to the storms, the cyclones that we mentioned in yesterday's stream, Kay, in 1998 and 99.
Both of those were weaker at peak than this is now.
So that's that.
Yeah.
The Gujarat cyclone of 1998, most people were unprepared for it, and that's why a lot of people died. Because there weren't really any good warnings that time. But now a lot of people are getting evacuated, so yeah, a lot more people are prepared than they were in 1998.
Yes. I feel like you could say the internet is one of the biggest reasons that this won't be the same as those cyclones, because people can see this, people are aware it's coming, people know what to do because they are being told with quick warnings, and people are being gotten out of the way by the government if they're in a dangerous area.
They're being evacuated.
Yes.
And you can see the distribution of the storm there. Significant amounts of cloud extending inland around where the storm is passing, which is now getting closer to the Mumbai area. Areas that are probably in the all clear now from the storm. Let's see. Mangalore probably just about out of that. Goa in the next few hours, I should think. Winds will start to decrease, will continue to decrease. Ratnagiri is very close to the storm right now. It's probably just had the closest pass from it, about 56 miles it was. And any other locations south of those areas will be getting out of it. How likely is it to strengthen right up until landfall?
Unlikely.
And why
It
is that?
might make landfall at peak intensity, but it should stop intensifying at least 6 hours before landfall.
Yeah, mainly because then you'll have the land interaction, which is a huge problem for storm structure. You'll have ever increasing shear and then dry air to go with all that. So it shouldn't really be intensifying past that point.
Yes.
There's another question or two. Ocean heat content good enough to support rapid intensification further? I think that's quite clear.
Yes, absolutely. Ocean heat content drops off just before landfall because the waters are too shallow to have any.
Yes.
That's the other reason why it won't be intensifying up to landfall.
I think the ocean heat content is we have so much ocean heat content, the storm could be sitting in the Arabian Sea for days and wouldn't have any problems with upwelling.
Oh yeah, it could be going half or even a third of the speed it is now and not have any issues from upwelling.
Yeah.
New image just came out at my end. Get a center fix on this, a position for you. About 17.1 degrees north, 72.4 degrees east. That puts the storm right now 59 miles from Ratnagiri, which is around 95 to 100 kilometers, just over 100 actually, and 54 miles from Jaigad, which is the closest point to the center of the storm right now. Significant rain looks like it's moving through near, well, you said earlier, Kay, there's a big squall near Goa.
Yes.
And I think there's more towards the north as well, closer to the storm, underneath the huge cloud tops.
Yeah. On the latest frame from the satellite, we've got 30 Fahrenheit, which is just below zero. So it looks like it is in the process of clearing and it's going to pulse. It'll go up and drop back a bit and then go up more and drop back a bit in terms of temperature as it defines itself better and better.
Now, Dragon Rider asks, what are the chances of Taute weakening? The track looks like it wants to hug the coast.
It shouldn't move any closer to the coast than it is now. We expect it to move farther away, and as you can see, it's not having many issues intensifying rapidly as where it is.
Yeah, it shouldn't be moving closer to the coast because of the current Bengal high position, which is pushing the cyclone away from the coast. So you wouldn't really have that happening.
And at this point, this is code red on TCOS, which is our internal operations status. It's the highest level of alert, basically, and that's why we're here. Our team are all working very hard on things behind and in full view. But that score is still rising as well because one of the parameters being the amount of people inside the potential for tropical storm for 50 knot winds and for hurricane equivalent conditions. We're still talking tens of millions, aren't we?
That's right. It's a very densely populated part of the world.
I think the 50 knot area is something like 60 million people, and the hurricane chances, this is the 10% line, covers I think 10 million roughly now. And there's a video, Kay.
Yes, this happened yesterday. Wave action and surge from Tauktae has been destroying buildings right on the coast.
Just like that.
Yeah, just completely
That's pretty
crumbled. The
incredible.
waves have washed the sand dunes out from underneath it, and it's got nothing to support itself.
And that's probably happening in quite a few places along the coast there with that significant storm surge, and probably see a worsening of that in the next 2 days.
Yeah, it's going to get worse, not better, and this will be happening in the greatest amount where it makes landfall.
So keep sending in your questions. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. I'm not sure what our live streaming schedule is going to be like because of how, unlike other basins, the information doesn't come out as quickly. There's less things to talk about, so it might be the case that we do little bits on and little bits off every so often, with regular live events and updates on the channel. But in the meantime, send in your questions, start your message with Force 13 all in text, and we'll see what we can do. Will there be any tornadic activity?
As with any tropical cyclone, you can't rule out tornadoes in the eye wall as it weakens or in the outer bands as it moves ashore. I wouldn't expect many along the coast of India here, around the Mumbai area, but up here in Gujarat, as it makes landfall near Diu, mostly on the eastern side, near Surat, Bhavana, Vadodara, Ahmedabad, potentially even Rajkot and other areas around those cities. You can't rule out tornadoes, as with any landfalling tropical cyclone.
So just to give you an indication again of some of the expected rainfall, we're looking at probably 14 or 15 inches of rain near the landfall zone in Gujarat. That is again around 350 millimeters of rainfall, possibly a little bit more than that. That's the current highest expectations. Earlier on in the storm's life, we were watching it, Kay, and we were looking at potentially for some areas in the monsoonal areas receiving something like 30 inches of rainfall.
The value I remember was for the hills of Kerala up to 1,300 millimeters. I'm not sure how that translates to inches exactly.
Do we know if that verified?
That's 50 inches. Wow.
Yeah.
What was more confident was that 1,000 millimeters or 40 inches, which is over 3 feet of rain, would fall through Kerala over 5 to 8 days, and given the daily totals the IMD has been putting out, it seems like that verified. Major impacts down there. I think 4 people had died in Kerala. There's been 8 deaths confirmed so far along the
I
southwest
think
coast
2
of India
people
from
here.
rainfall impacts.
Go ahead.
I think 2 people have died here.
Oh, 2 in Kerala, 4 in one of the other cities.
Tornadic. And 2
Right.
in Goa, that's 8 total.
Yes.
We're also joined by Isaac now, I believe. It's certainly showing us the radar imagery, another view of the radar.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly show this while I still am able to. This is radar, of course, showing the eye of the cyclone. Just off the coast of India, and you can see those really intense outer bands there, especially prominent on the southeastern side. You can, of course, see the ever-present large eye. Well, at least on radar, looking hard die when you zoom it in a little bit here. So really dangerous cyclone. I really hope everybody's taking this cyclone seriously here and taking the necessary precautions ahead of time and not waiting to the very, very last minute to do so, because this is a really deadly storm already, and I don't want to see any more casualties or any more loss of life happen in this cyclone. So please, if we're in the path of this, if we're anybody in the path of this, please stay safe and please keep all official government warnings and info on this storm.
We got the gist of that, but the signal was very poor there, Isaac. It was chopping up. How will convergence and divergence further help intensification is a question from Michael.
Actually, that's perfect. So, Walter,
so-
could you share the tab? Okay. So we currently have a map of upper level divergence, right? So what upper level divergence does is that it helps remove the air from the lower level convergence, which causes the updrafts in the thunderstorms. And therefore, it lowers the surface pressure of the storm. So you really have a powerful feedback loop between the two. Do you have the convergence one as well? That's divergence.
Yep.
As you can see, you also have lower level convergence values approaching 30 in the eye wall, which is really beneficial for thunderstorm formation. And this is why, although it seems like the southwest version, the southwest section of the CDO is lacking right now, maybe due to some dry air and stable air, should be getting fixed relatively soon with this new feedback loop that I just stated. But yeah, that's how it can help. And this trend is only expected to strengthen over the next few hours and days.
Another question there. Do we see eye wall replacement happening if further intensification of the storm is said to happen in the next 24 hours?
Those can never be ruled out, but as best we know, we're not expecting one.
I mean, it's extremely difficult to predict our replacement cycles. You can never rule out anything if a storm gets so intense, but currently we have no indication of one starting.
The radar is not indicating, or nor microwave is indicating one at the present time.
Yeah.
And on our screen there, you can see a snapshot of our automated stream that's running all the time, whether we're doing commentary or not. Shows you some of the latest imagery on the storm as well. You can see it there. You'll get a better view on the actual stream. It's looking a little bit low quality at this end. But that shows all kinds of information too, even when we're not on the air. So I would highly recommend that. But in the meantime, let's take another look at that radar, I think, just now. Walter.
So this is the radar around 20 minutes ago. You can see the break is the 2 ends have connected.
Yep.
Compared to the image around 40 minutes ago. You can see a gap here, but in the latest one, it has been connected. So I guess it was just a occasional thing that the eye wall breaks and connects back again.
There's a question there that we're going to try and get an answer for in just a moment. When will the wind really pick up in Mumbai? So I'm going to really zoom in on the model graphic here to try and give you an idea of what will happen in the area. So this is, as far as I know, this is the Mumbai area. I'm not fully read up on the geography, but yes, it's along that peninsula. So let's cycle through the model and see when we get the greens that creep in. That would be the tropical storm force winds. There it is. That's about, well, the model thinks that will happen in about an hour. And then it'll be on and off as the storm passes by, and that's how close it will be. The yellows there, that's hurricane force winds. They stay offshore. But it looks to me as though Mumbai and the whole general area around there will experience around 65 to 75 kilometer per hour sustained winds. And actually, it could get stronger on the backside of the storm there. The colours getting just a little bit brighter, maybe towards 80 kilometers per hour. Early, when's that? Tomorrow during the day. So I just thought I'd give you an insight there. Let's see what other questions we might have right now. If the high pressure in the Bay of Bengal is responsible for the system taking a north-northwest path, the high pressure was present from yesterday, and why has it started to affect the system only now?
Well, the high pressure has been steering influence for the entire time.
Say that again?
The high pressure has been a steering influence for the entire time now, but now the steering flow is so that the storm goes north-northwest, then it rounds the base of the high pressure and a trough is going to pick it up, and that's why it will turn to the northeast prior to landfall and is now moving to the north-northwest.
Yeah, and again, there is the latest imagery, one aspect of it. Let's take a look at Kay's screen showing very similar stuff actually. No news on the eye temperature since that? Kay's not with us just at the moment, just took a step away. Isaac, are you still showing us the... What are you showing us? Yes, the radar right now, looking very impressive on the southern side.
Yeah, this is the latest radar here. The last frame was about 8 minutes ago here, give or take. We could really see the intense banding on the east there, right along the coastline. And this primarily wanted to show this radar, this looping radar, because I know it's kind of hard to find looping radars over in India. But you can see just how the storm's been doing over the past 2 hours here, continuing to intensify here, and a really good indicator of why everybody needs to be taking this system seriously here. We predicted that this sort of storm was predicted, I think, maybe a week out in advance at the very least. So there's a lot of time ahead to consider perhaps going over your hurricane or cyclone safe plan over there, and now it's happening right before our eyes here. So if we're in the path of this and they still have time to take shelter or do whatever last minute preparations need to do it as soon as you possibly can. Do not wait to the very last minute till it's right on top of you. You'll regret it. Do not do that. And just make sure you stay safe. Listen to all the advice given to you by local officials, and you just gotta write this out. It's going to be really scary, but you get through it if you follow the advice from your local officials, and just stay safe and hunker down here.
So that is obviously sound advice as we continue to track the storm, and there's so many populations that will be affected by that, that will all have to prepare for this. And but the main threat, Isaac, probably for those that aren't right on the coast, will be rainfall.
Exactly, rainfall is another big threat for this cyclone. I think well, I think Kay mentioned earlier that there's already been 40 or 50 inches of rainfall that's fallen already from this, if I'm not mistaken.
Potentially much further south. It was partly, it wasn't in the main core of the storm, it was sort of a monsoonal element that it had to it, really.
Yes. The storm pushed a lot of moisture into the southwest coast of India with its large wind field in connection with the equatorial wind feature that formed it, called the westerly wind burst. Basically just a strong amount of wind at the equator with gales. Meant the wind field of this system was massive to the south as it first formed. That pushed a load of moisture into the hills of Kerala, and moisture rising over hills undergoes orographic forcing, and that basically means loads of storms formed and dropped torrential rain for days and days. And I believe it's still raining in Kerala.
Now, according to a comment, the IMD
No waiting here.
at 12Z kept it at T4.5K.
Yes.
Do you want to
Which
explain
equates
that?
to 75 to 80 knots. 75 3 minutes sustained.
Do you want to just explain to everyone what the T system is?
So T is how Dvorak is measured. It's a scale of assessing tropical cyclones by their satellite appearance based on cloud top temperatures and the structure of the storm. And it goes from T 1.0, which is basically too low to give any reasonable estimates, or T 8.0, which is as high as the scale goes. And that's storms like Goni and Haiyan and Patricia, the top of the top of the top.
Oh, yeah.
Only one storm in the Atlantic's ever gotten that high, and that was Gilbert, 1988. So 4.5. Oh, I should also explain it's not a linear scale. It doesn't go up equally towards the higher end of the scale. The same difference is much higher increase in winds. So the lower end of the scale, you go up 0.5 and it's 5 knots. At the top end of the scale, that would be 15 knots. And it goes up in 0.5
Wow.
stages.
So, non-linear, but how is it then? Is it exponential or is it just random?
It is specific. I can actually
Yeah.
bring up a chart of it.
Just because that's rather interesting. But IMD going with 4.5, so in essence, K, they're saying that would be a category 1.
This is a bit blurry. I don't know how it looks on the stream.
A bit blurry is the answer.
But this is 4.5.
Yep.
And that equates to 77 1 minute sustained, or a high-end category 1.
All right.
We currently have it between 5.5 and 6, which is between 100 knots and 115 knots, or a category 3 to a low-end category 4. And it's currently towards, it's probably around 5.8 if you were able to go in between,
And
which
that's
you're not, but we're at 110.
That's what our analyst team are saying, are they?
Yes, and unless something changes, we might be upgrading further in the next hour or two. In terms of how far the storm could go,
what are you looking for when you're looking to upgrade it, Kay?
Well, when you're doing Dvorak analysis, there are many structural features that have been identified over the past 30, 40, 50 years by scientists, and they've gone, okay, when a storm looks like this, we've flown planes into it, and it was these wind speeds, the average of which is this. So they've created wind speeds and assigned a T number to them for simplification. And then they've got a whole list of structures. You identify the structures you're seeing. You adjust it based on temperature, both in the eye and in the clouds. And then you put it all together to get your final estimate, basically.
All right.
It's remarkably smart.
Yes. Let's see if we've got any more questions just now. Is it going to damage windows and things?
I think that's a yes.
Definitely.
We're
What?
expecting a landfall near DU at a similar intensity to Hurricane Harvey of 2017. Now, it's not going to stall anywhere near like Harvey did, so the rainfall will not be anywhere on that scale for this part of India at least. However, the wind damage at landfall and the surge will be significant, and well-built homes could see roof damage, but I'm not sure that a lot of the homes in this part of the world will be particularly well constructed, and you could see entire walls being blown down, or even houses just picked up and thrown into next door houses.
No, that's not good. And that's going to be widespread as well, isn't it?
Yes, it's going to be
Can I
a
speak?
fairly significant eye wall given the size of the eye. It won't be thin, it'll be more broad than some cyclones we've seen recently with very tight cores. This is still quite a compact system, but by the time it gets there, it should have well, we could expect to see major hurricane winds over a fairly substantial area near landfall.
Did you want to add anything to that in the room?
Some rural areas in India have not so well built houses, so yeah, that's a problem.
Okay, and a final question there. Will this storm intensify prior to landfall? It looks like. We're going to be taking a short break here. We'll be back in about 4 minutes or so, and we'll be back with more coverage on this storm. This is Cyclone Tauktae, and we'll be covering it in even more detail in the next hour. Our live coverage will continue in a moment. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. PM along the coast of western India and of course across the whole of India as the storm Cyclone Tauktae continues up towards the coast of Gujarat now. It will be passing Mumbai along the way and is a high-end category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale according to our latest analyst estimates. There it is right now on the screen, satellite imagery showing the wrapping round of the eye wall further around the eye and the increasing of the cloud tops and the deepening of the eye as it is actually, and an intensification phase is still ongoing, where this storm could get to category 4 status. Some people have been suggesting it could get towards category 5 status before it makes landfall. What we do know for sure is that landfall won't be a pretty sight and it will cause a substantial storm surge and lots of rainfall totaling perhaps 350 millimeters or more, and of course those very strong winds which could reach over 200 kilometers per hour sustained. My name is Nathan Foy and we're back with the team again for this hour. We have Joey, Kay, myself, Noah, the phone expert, Walter, and the King of Crabs. Very interesting
Hello.
lineup we've got there.
Yes.
So you've had a few moments just to reflect on what's occurred in the last hour. Does anyone have any prevailing thoughts just now?
The latest satellite frame came in a few minutes ago, and if I just pause my animation at the end, there we are.
Hold on
Very
a minute.
impressive structure.
Sorry about this. There we go.
Right. So, a very impressive structure. We've got an inflow band feeding in from the south and southwest. Deep convection firing over the south and starting to fire to the east, which means it's making progress round the eye wall. Previously, it was just in the south, and as you can see, there's now pinks in the east and northeast. I'm not entirely sure what that corresponds to. Let's check. Oh, that's minus 80s.
Yes.
Right, so there's minus 80s in the northeast now. And if you take the center temperature of the eye, the entire eye is between -2 and minus sort of 8. -10 around the edges, obviously going lower. But the eye is rapidly warming. It's going to be a fairly large eye, as you can see.
How large
there is a
is
bit
that?
of an angle on this.
I said before around 30 nautical miles. I think that's a good estimate.
Well, a rough estimate based off of satellite, which isn't completely accurate, would support 50 kilometers.
So that's around 30 miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just getting a read on what the temperature is according to the Indian satellite. They have it at actually much lower than I was expecting. -10 still. Is that current? Oh, that's not current. That's why. We'll get a current one. Just beyond that in just a moment, but you can see the expanse of the storm there in relation to the areas that it's close to on Kay's screen. And that is how recent? What time?
This is half an hour ago, and it's improving every frame we get.
In a moment, I'll have an image from 15 minutes ago. Just a little bit over 15 minutes ago, and actually still not showing a particularly warm eye in that image. You're not able to see what I'm seeing, but it closed up again. Now, earlier when it was that warmer eye that you were... Okay, let's see what it got, because on your estimates, you got the eye temperature up to, what was it in the end, 6 degrees?
7 in one spot. And then it very quickly went down to about -5 in the next 15 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is pulsing.
Nathan, on my news frame, the eye temperatures has sunk pretty much into the far negatives, around -30 in the entire eye. So we have just some cloud debris inside the eye, and that the storm is trying to mix this out, and the eye temperature will fluctuate pretty dramatically now between -30 to +7 or 10 until this cloud debris is mixed out.
The Indian satellite not long ago got the maximum eye temperature of +1 in the end, so that was to correspond with the +7 that you got, Kay. But I think in this situation, Kay, it might be better to take just a quick look at unenhanced infrared to show you perhaps the debris around the eye.
I can bring that up. It's not the greatest resolution.
It looked better on the on Inset 3D, I must say.
But you can see the eye is clearing here, but then you can also see that there is debris around the edge of the eye, and you've got the southern eye wall blocking our view of the southern part of the eye because of the viewing angle.
Right. To the southwest there, a blow-up as well outside of the storm's core?
This is in the inflow, so this is feeding into it, and the fact there's a big blow-up there, well, it won't hinder the storm at all, and it just indicates it's got very good moisture source.
Could that go, spin round and deliver significant rainfall to those coastal areas then?
Well, it would blow up, come in, and sort of merge with the eye wall over. Yes, that probably would. If it makes it and sustains to the coast, it would definitely bring increased impacts when it makes it there.
And also, Nathan, I've put a kind of graphic that I made into the live output room. That's water vapor imagery, and there it says constant convective pulse in the southern eye wall, and that's a thing I've observed during the past 12 hours, that we have this constant convective blow up in the southern half, which is bringing significant, very significant rainfall to the coast of India, more significant than in the other quadrants of the eye wall in the southern part.
And there it is.
Yeah, I would also like to add that another thing that I posted in the output room, it's also suggesting very heavy rainfall totals just off the coast of India, mainly due to that convective burst that Noah just stated.
Yeah, that's the rain rate, which is derived from satellite. It's really just an estimate based on the cloud top height, how much rain it might be falling, how much might be being produced at that time, hourly rain rates. But that's like over 50 millimeters there in the black area. Let's take some more questions right now. We're going to get this question all the time, I think. The chances of it being a Category 5, it's not the be-all and end-all of broadcasting this storm, whether it becomes a Category 5 or not, but people do want to know. What do we think at this moment?
If the current rate of intensification continues, which has been looking at our fixes over the last 6 hours, it's intensified 15 knots. Well, 10 to 15 knots. If that were to continue, we'd be at a category 5. Goodness, we'd be at a category 5 by 0Z,
I
which would be
beg your
6 a.m.
pardon.
local time if the current intensification continues without slowing or pausing.
Good lord.
Yeah.
More questions here. JTWC is saying further rapid intensification for only the next 6 hours, after which it will start weakening due to high wind shear, they're saying.
What? Wind shear?
Well, I
Where's
don't
that
even think
coming
that's
from?
going to happen.
That's come second hand. Let me just have a look at the what the JTWC prognostic reasoning is saying. Not that I don't trust what they just said, but let's just see if I can find that.
I'm going to have a look for the JTWC myself.
Yeah, I don't think they've actually written it yet. They've written their remarks, so let's see. Peak intensity of 105 knots in the next 6 hours. Thereafter, the system will begin a weakening trend as it enters a region of higher shear, rounds the ridge axis, and then makes landfall between Veraval and Mahuva, India, between 24 and 36 hours. And they think it will complete.
I currently
They
doubt
think it will
this.
complete dissipation by 72 hours, possibly sooner.
In our forecast cone, which was made at the same time as this outlook, I believe. Oh wait, no, this is 15 Zulu. It won't have dissipated by 3 days, but it might be a remnant low. We have it as a tropical depression at that time.
I'm going to just see if this image. I don't think this is the latest graphic. Let's see if we've got a new graphic here from JTWC. Oh, there it is. This should be the very latest. Yes, it is. So they're still bringing it very close to land there. Mumbai definitely looks like it's going to get tropical storm force winds. The 50 knot areas, indeed. That second ring inside there is just off the coast at Mumbai. The hurricane force winds should be staying off, and they're actually suggesting or implying right now that hurricane force winds are right on the coast at this present moment. Which certainly from my perspective makes it a little bit more serious, considering that until now we only had it down for 50-mile-an-hour winds along the coast. When I was factoring in our preparations for today.
So I looked at the HWRF model output for wind shear, and at the current time it says it has around 20 knots of shear from the southeast, which also could explain this constant convective bursts on the southern side. And continuing 12 hours into the future, it has the shear at around increasing to up to 30 knots of shear from the southeast. And then 24 hours out, I think it decreases the shear a bit. Decreases the shear again to around 20 knots. So this storm will likely, for its entire lifetime, have moderate shear from around 15 to maybe up to 30 knots of shear from the south or southeast.
Your response to that, Kay?
I mean, the shear isn't forecast to increase beyond what it is now, as far as I'm aware. I'm looking through the models as we speak. I might actually be able to bring this up on stream.
Okay. Whilst we wait for that, just a question here. Is it going to hit Mumbai and do we have to evacuate?
Pretty low chance it will make landfall near Mumbai, but I could say some rain and winds.
Right,
From
so I've
what
got the
we're
model
looking
data
at,
up on screen.
just to finish off that point, from what we're looking at there in Mumbai, you're probably looking at 60 mph winds now, maybe at the worst case, with rainfall amounts probably reaching 2 to 3 inches, up to 75 millimeters of rain, maybe more in localized areas. Okay.
Okay, so this is the latest model data as of now, and models from 6Z, which is 9 hours ago, have the storm in the right position. They move it in a very tight line and make landfall near the bottom tip of this large peninsula here, and then it moves inland and dissipates somewhere over northern India. Sea surface temperatures are going to be around 30 until they drop off shortly before landfall as it enters the shallow shelf waters. Relative humidity is good, better than was forecast yesterday, actually. It was forecast to be near 60 now, but it stayed high. That's going to be decreasing as we approach land and then obviously dropping off inland because land has less humidity than the ocean. Shear, however, as of 6E, all models forecast it to decrease. The more reliable models want it to go down to almost nothing by landfall and only increase after landfall still. Unless the JTWC have got access to the 12 Zulu models before we have, I don't know where they're getting this shear from.
Okay, take a look at the HWRF and make a area averaged sounding. I think you get the most accurate shear data from that.
Well, I mean, the HWRF is on here.
Hmm.
The blue line. Below 10, especially given the shear is moving in the same direction as the storm, which reduces the effect of it, basically negligible according to this data.
Well, I've taken a model sounding, and on the HWRF, the shear has been around 20 to 30 knots in those soundings, which is a lot. And I think the JTWC might be basing their shear expectations based on those.
So this is just before landfall, 27 hours from now. Actually, let's go back one. So we're 24 hours from now. This would be 3 p.m. local time on Monday. Take an average of the whole area. And what do we get? Maximum shear is 10 knots. The steering is 12. They're not in the same direction, but part of them are. So that would be reduced to maybe 8 knots just before landfall.
Take a
And
look at
this
12 hours
is
out
24
from
hours from now. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center thinks that shear will increase to at least double this, if not triple this, in 6 hours from now.
Take a look at 12 hours out on the model run. So
12
that
hours
being,
out, that's here.
yeah.
Take a sounding. Max shear is 20.
Yeah, you should always go with the max shear because the other shear numbers are
And you take off 10
a little bit
for the
less.
steering. And it's not that impressively high. And the fact it decreases afterwards with 90% relative humidity, I don't see a reason to expect weakening from shear.
Very interesting.
I think
Yeah,
the
I will
Joint Typhoon
also-
Warning Center, in my opinion, is overblowing the effect of shear on this system.
All right, well, I mean, who knows which way that's going to go then? But it sounds like the storm, I mean, it looks like the storm's going to continue intensifying. It doesn't look like it's going to hit a roadblock in 6 hours, does it?
No, definitely not.
Not really. We also have pretty substantial lightning in the southwestern side of the eye wall, so that's a pretty good sign for intensification.
I'm just again showing you the latest JTWC forecast cone, predicting a landfall of the storm to occur probably just east of Dew. And that, of course, is a little bit to the... It's literally halfway, really, between Viraval and Mahuva, which is what the JTWC were pointing out as projected landfall zones. So the forecast track now up to landfall, is that set in stone? Are we sure about it at this point? Or is there still some areas where it could deviate?
We're very confident it'll make landfall in this area. If I take off the labels and put on outline, very confident it'll make landfall in this area. Well, that's a bit big. Go away. It's not being very helpful. Hold on. Finish, right. Between here and here, which is about 130 kilometers along. Anywhere along here, it could make landfall. We don't expect it to be outside that.
And just a reminder of how long it will be until landfall now.
Can hop back to the HWRF quickly. That's landfall there.
Right.
1 day from now.
Literally 24 hours.
Yep.
So no doubt we'll be here for all of tomorrow night then.
I think you can say that quite comfortably. Something interesting to note with the HWRF is it weakens quickly initially, but then it slows down as it moves over the river delta. So perhaps a little bit of brown ocean reducing the rate of weakening.
I'm just looking to see if the GFS had that. Don't think it does really, that effect.
And that's where it's dissipated.
All right.
How far out is that? 21Z on the 19th.
78 hours.
Just outside 3 days. But at 3 days, it should still be a depression, according to our estimates.
And there's the satellite imagery again from Kay there. And the latest image is now what timestamp?
Latest image is still as of 14 UTC, which is nearly an hour ago. But if we go over to this website,
it's frustrating, isn't it? You know, we're used to looking at GOES 16 all the time and having updates every single minute.
Yeah, quite a considerable intrusion
we're
of
only
debris
used...
into the eye there.
Yeah,
So
we're only
minus
used to
90
GOES
entering the
16 because we were doing the Atlantic all year last year. But what is that symbolizing then, Kay? That intrusion?
Oh dear. You can never get it to go right where you want it.
And you look towards the south there, there's some separation going on there, isn't there?
There might be a bit of dry air entraining around the outside of the circulation.
Yes.
But it could equally be substance from this very powerful convection here.
It doesn't look right, though.
It does look a bit off, I will admit. go back to this. Pause it at the latest frame. It's hard to tell whether it's subsidence from the convection or dry air. I guess we'll find out shortly.
More questions. Is it... Oh dear. Is it possible that the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season will reach the Greek alphabet?
Don't jinx that.
There is no Greek alphabet anymore.
Yeah, so actually the answer is no. So
It's impossible.
yeah, that's a change in the Atlantic
If
this
you're
year.
talking about auxiliaries, that I don't know, but we don't have Greek alphabets anymore. So,
And
yeah.
a follow-up on what we were saying earlier. First, IMD confusing us with max wind speeds 85 knots, and now JTWC saying high wind shear. Are we confused that the report is not matching much with the weather model prediction? I mean, we sort of covered that in some detail just before, but I don't know if anyone has any other comments on that.
Well, you can. I think the JTWC probably has data we have no access to, and furthermore, the storm has been structurally struggling a bit with southeasterly shear. You see this constant this constant convective burst in the southern side that is due to shear and to land interaction, and I think maybe they think this will persist and actually have some kind of weakening effect on the storm.
We've also got, is this a shear map that's been posted in the output room?
Yes, that's a shear
Yeah,
map.
that was earlier. I was trying to say that it seems like the current storm motion is actually agreeing with the shear vector, which means that it wouldn't be as subject to the negative effects of shear as it would if it was moving opposite that.
Also thing the JTWC might see is that the outflow, especially to the equatorial region and to the east, is very restricted. We have almost the entire outflow of the system is towards the north and northwest. So that's also a limiting factor on the storm, that we don't have this good upper level ventilation for these for the masses of convection that are going up in the center.
Let's get a latest position estimate as of, well, the best we can do, I think, is about half an hour ago. The position of the storm, 17.2 degrees north and 72.3 east. That would put this storm right now, let's just get some indications from land areas. So from Ratnagiri, 68 miles now, that's increasing. Some other locations, Gampatipuli 66 miles, Jaigad 61, Guhagar 61 as well. That is now the closest place to the center of the storm. Dapali is 67 miles, and let's just go straight up to Mumbai there, 130 miles from the center of the storm. At the start of our stream, was it about 145? I think it's moved about 15 miles since the start of our stream. I can tell you that the storm has moved since, let's see, in 3 hours, the storm has moved north-northwest 32 miles. So
that's a speed of between 13 and 14 miles an hour.
About 11 miles an hour.
My numbers were over the last 6 hours.
Yeah, over 3 hours, 11 miles per hour at the moment.
I can announce that our intermediate 15Z fix has the storm holding at 125 from our fix at the start of the stream, but the pressure down 1 millibar.
Blimey, Kay, last time I heard you were going to be upgrading it.
Well, we weren't expecting the eye to cloud up quite so much. And we
Well,
can't upgrade it beyond what it is now with the current structural changes.
Well, that's fascinating. So that's somewhat welcome news that it's not intensifying any further just right now.
Yes, but it's likely to just be a momentary pause, unfortunately.
It still looks that way. Is India getting tropical storm force winds? Why, yes, quite a significant part of it is pretty much there. You look at that. If you're going to be safe about it, probably anywhere in the green on that satellite imagery is getting tropical storm force winds, or has the potential to be. Any chance for it to hit Pakistan at this point? We actually gave Karachi still a 12% chance of tropical storm conditions. But a landfall
Yes,
there
but
would appear unlikely.
a landfall on Pakistan is probably not likely from now on, because the models are agreeing on a India landfall right now. So yeah.
Another indication on the current storm's intensity, just to remind you, so 125 miles per hour, and the pressure is 945 millibars at the latest update, which is just now. We will be here until the end of the hour Indian time, and then we will have a storm update, a regular update on the Force 13 channel, which will occur at, I think it will be something like, I'm trying to figure this out. I think it's going to be at midnight. There will be an update on the channel, and then we will be live again later on, probably in the early morning, probably with the Tropical Weather Bulletin hour live, and I think our team might be covering more in the hours after that as well. But do send in your questions if you have any further questions for us. Start your message with Force 13 or then text in the chat section. So what do we think the landfall intensity of Taute is? Asks Hyan Boy.
Should I begin?
Sure, if you want.
So, I think my personal forecast is probably around 150 knots, so that would be 130 miles per hour. I think
You
there's
just
a
said,
decent
you just
chance.
said that wrong. I got to stop you there. You said 150 knots.
I said 115 knots.
Oh, I thought you said 150.
That would be a bit too high.
Well, if I might have misheard it, maybe others did. So I think it was right to pull you up on that. 115, right?
Yeah,
130
I
miles
think
an
there's
hour.
a pretty decent chance it will landfall as a Category 4.
I would say you're right with that, absolutely. And that is indeed what our forecasts are all saying. What's the outflow situation looking like now, and what will affect it in the future?
Right now the storm has relatively restricted outflow to the south and to the east, with only one outflow channel being quite good, that is to the north, and I would expect both the eastern side and the southern side to be very restricted outflow wise in the future until landfall, but we still have this jet north of the storm that will transport some of the outflow away to the north, basically making a pretty good polar outflow channel.
Let's take a look at some more imagery just now. Walter, you're showing us the latest radar once again.
the image was around 20 minutes ago again, and you can see there are a huge gap in the east of the storm, and comparing with the ones before, you can see the gap has increased in
So
size.
is this... Oh my. Is that a pronounced dry air slot then, or what is it?
Well, I presume it is a dry air spot. I guess someone else can yeah.
Oh yeah,
That, yeah, it was
that's
probably
likely
a
some
dry
dry
air.
air.
And if we see
The animated loop there showing how that has progressed, and wow.
the
It's
dry
happening
air
rather
is
quickly.
it's increasing in size. Like in
It
3
certainly
hours,
is.
it was probably small, but right now it expands over to the east of the eye. So I guess it was probably a very large dry air intruding over the storm's eye wall.
Quite a few more questions just came in. How much rainfall did the cyclone drop in Goa?
The predictions were for several hundred millimeters.
I'm going to see if I could...
exactly had enough time to confirm what's happened.
I'm just going to have a quick look, and maybe you guys could talk about something else whilst I look for that and see if there are any numbers that are actually... that we can
Try
use.
finding.
Sorry?
Let me try finding the Go observations.
Yes, that would be very helpful indeed. We'll wait on that for a moment, but this is the latest satellite imagery once again. The reds continuing to wrap around the storm's eye. What did you make of what was said just before, Kay, about a potential dry air slot?
On what part of the storm?
On the eastern side of the eye wall.
Well, there's absolutely nothing visible on its satellite imagery.
We were looking at the radar just now.
Yeah, radar. I'm looking at it now, and it does look like dry air, but it's hard to tell.
It certainly is, but that area's been expanding in the last frames. Now, will it get to a point where it becomes really significant?
The only point that matters is whether the dry air breaks through the eye wall. If it stays outside the eye wall, it won't do a thing.
Do we have a time estimate on how long it will take until the Doppler radar in Mumbai will catch the eye of the storm? Someone on the radars will have to tell me the answer to that one.
I think it might be several hours still.
I'm not sure, because it's getting close.
You can see the eye from Mumbai, but you can't see a lot more.
But if you can see it from... Oh, okay.
The
yeah,
Mumbai
you're right.
radar isn't as good, I think.
Why not?
I don't know. It must be a newer one in Goa.
How interesting. Well, you're right on that. There's Mumbai right now, and we can barely see a thing.
Yeah, if it were the same radar as Goa, we'd be able to see it quite clearly.
I guess we'll have to wait a couple of hours before the eye passes through Mumbai's radar. Judging by the rate it has been going in its radar. Yeah.
And again, questions about whether it will undergo an eye wall replacement cycle and when, and we know that's one of the most difficult questions to answer.
this dry air actually isolates the inner eye wall from inflow, the storm might try to form a outer eye wall around the dry air. But that's assuming this is dry air. It could be something like a moat forming, which is where you get a space of rather calm conditions around the very intense eye wall in the strongest storms. The other reason why I'm not entirely sold on it being dry air is because there's deep convection firing.
I did notice
in the middle
that.
of where this dry air is supposedly coming from.
I did notice that.
I'm not sure why there's minus 110. I don't know what that corresponds to in Celsius.
Minus 110 Fahrenheit. It's probably towards the minus 70s, minus 60s.
This scale suggests it be below minus 80.
We're going to find out now. Oh.
No, minus. Minus 80.
Nearly.
Give or take a bit. Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's confusing, and we'll have to keep watching it to work out what it's doing. It's one of those, we'll know in a couple of hours, but we can't tell
Yeah,
now.
that's something that we certainly will be doing. Joey, we haven't heard from you during this stream. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say during, because we're going to be finishing up here in 20 minutes, so I just want to give you the opportunity right now.
Not really. I think it's been summed up quite well here. There's not really much more to say apart from this is a dangerous system, and you do need to make sure that you are keeping eyes out on all sorts of updates that are released, and you need to make sure that you do take it seriously, because this isn't a laughing matter.
They call it a very severe cyclonic storm at the moment, the Indian Meteorological Department. This is just their advisory, moving north-northwestwards with a speed of around 19 kilometers per hour during the last 6 hours. And as of 12 UTC, it was at 16.7 north, 72.5 east. The latest estimate from satellite would suggest that it's at 17.3 north, 72.3 east. And let's see what very likely to intensify further is what they say during the next 24 hours. Very likely to move north-northwestwards and reach Gujarat coast during 12 to 15 UTC on the 17th and cross the coast between Porbandar and Mahuva around 0Z on the 18th of May. So they're expecting it to happen. That's quite late, isn't it?
That is quite late, yes.
They're expecting that to happen around 5 a.m. local time on the 18th of May.
We're expecting it to
Tuesday.
be closer to midnight local time.
No, we're expecting it to be in this time tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, you're right, so a bit before midnight.
And they are expecting maximum winds at the surface of around 165 kilometers per hour, which is very interesting considering that we have it over 190 already, I think.
Yeah. It's a bit confusing.
Just want to read out their perspective at just a few points. They say that they had the T4.5. The eye has become ragged, they say. Yeah, it sort of is. Broken low and medium clouds with embedded intense to very intense convection laying over the east central Arabian Sea, over South Konkangoa and coastal Karnataka and South Maharashtra. The associated maximum sustained wind speed is 80 knots, gusting to 90 knots, they say, with an estimated central pressure of 970 millibars. Sea condition is phenomenal. I'm just. I want to see if they say anything about wind shear, though. That would be interesting if they agreed with the JTWC. I don't think they mention it at all. They say that they've got the favourable environment like MJO, high SST, high TCHP, good poleward outflow. Oh, there it is, low vertical wind shear and westerly wind burst. And they say it would intensify further during the next 24 hours. Very interesting that JTWC has gone and said only 6 hours.
Yes. But regardless of what ends up happening with this storm, it is almost certainly a major cyclone at this time. It is a powerful and dangerous storm that will produce life-threatening conditions where it makes landfall and in other places along the path as well. And everyone that's near this storm needs to be paying very close attention and should have already taken action to protect themselves, their lives and their property. And if you're still in the direct landfall area and you're in a low-lying place, you should try to get to a safer spot if possible, as soon as possible.
There's another interesting question that's been posted there, one to ponder. Has there been any previous occurrence that a storm has gone through rapid intensification in spite of moderate wind shear around 20 knots? I'm pretty sure that answers yes, but it leads me to ask, what is the highest wind shear that a storm's rapidly intensified in? That's a good question, I think.
One of the textbook examples is Joaquin of 2015 in the Atlantic that had 25 to 30 knots of shear and went from a Cat 3 to almost a Cat 5.
Ah, dear. That thing.
Yes, that's a
Hurricane
textbook example
Joaquin.
for intensifying under shear.
Yes, well, I wish I hadn't asked that question now because I don't like that storm very much. It was because of the wind shear being high, and I mean, some people were more taken aback by it than me. I think someone at the time was saying that, or maybe even the officials, I can't remember, that it would be a 50-mile-an-hour peak.
Yes, and then it completely ignored the environmental conditions and did its own thing.
Absolutely.
I think they've now worked out why it did what it did, but it took them 4 years of studying to work it out.
Wow. That's incredible that we still don't understand a lot of these scenarios.
Yes.
As of right now, the storm is still moving north-northwest, slightly away from land. Just to give you a perspective, its closest point to land 3 hours ago was 54 miles, and the closest point to land now is 60 miles. So it's only small differences, but it is slowly drawing away from the coast. Tropical storm force winds will still be very commonplace along the coast there as it edges up towards the Mumbai area. It's now the closest significant area really is, well, let's just get the closest town of any size. Still the closest at the moment is Guhagar, which is 60 miles away, and distance from Mumbai is 125. We will be finishing up for the time being in about 10 minutes, so please send in your questions. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. This is a major situation though, so we will have live streaming at regular intervals on the Force 13 channel and probably for the whole day tomorrow. We will also have video updates on the Force 13 YouTube channel and on social media. You can find Force 13 there. And you can also chat with many of our community members and trackers in real time on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13, real-time chat with the whole cyclone tracking community across the globe. Any other things to note just at this present moment?
Apparently, Panaji Goa received 124 millimeters of rain from 8:30 to 17:30 as of 16 May.
So in 9 hours, Goa got, how much was it again?
124 millimeters in Panaji.
124.
Yes.
Yes. So that's 5 inches. And actually, that's Pinardi. So I'm just going to find out how that matched up against what the model was hinting at, because obviously that would be an interesting conclusion, whether it was higher than what the model was saying or not. And can you base that for the? Can you make a basis on that for future rainfall predictions, that it might
I
underestimate
feel
again?
you could suggest it, but you couldn't get anything concrete because this has been outer band rainfall, and the heaviest rainfall obviously is in the eye wall, and we haven't seen how that's behaving relative to the models yet.
Well, the model had down around 4 inches for there, so a little bit higher. And just to reel off, they go by on the bottom of your screen, but just to reel off a few other rainfall estimates, in Mumbai we're probably looking at somewhere around 60 or 70 millimeters, but the main areas that will get the highest rainfall will of course be along the coast of Gujarat. Wherever it makes landfall, you're probably looking at 350 millimeters of rainfall or more. Extending inland, quite a vast region of 100 millimeters plus, extending very far inland. Can't quite get a distance on that, but let's see what places we could be talking about. Maybe as far north, certainly beyond Ahmedabad, you're probably looking at more than 100 millimeters, maybe even getting towards 200 millimeters still in that area. So even if the storm weakens substantially after it makes landfall, the rainfall could still linger for some time and could even cause. We're even looking at maybe 100 to 150 millimeters in Delhi eventually. But we'll see how that goes. More questions here. Yes.
I've just noticed. So on Real Earth, the 15Z frame has finally come through.
Right.
And this is the frame we were previously looking at with the good clearing eye.
Yep.
We know in between the eye clouded over. Oh. Hello.
Well done, Gail.
It's watermarked it now, that's nice.
So that's
what
new
you can
image,
see
is
is that the pinks have surged massively around, so that they're now covering a full semicircle of the storm, and that will really help the eye to clear out with substance from the intense convection.
Uh-oh.
The most intense convection here is minus 90, very cold, and in the storm itself, yeah, the after it clouded over and dropped to minus 25, it's starting to come back up. We're into minus 15 again. So it seems it was just temporary bits of debris coming into the storm, maybe some cirrus, and it's already clearing itself out. So a very temporary pause, it seems.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think I also saw another question on live asking why there wasn't as much convection in the northern eye wall. Well, it seems like the southwestern burst wasn't really curling around the system at that point, maybe because of the shear that Noah stated earlier. But now it seems to be having an easier time doing that. So that could be changing easily as of right now.
Will the storm's gale force wind field increase or decrease?
It should increase as it intensifies and then roughly hold, even if it weakens a little bit, to land.
Yep. Will the storm intensify when it hits Mumbai? Well, the centre of the storm will be hitting Mumbai, but from what we got from our indications earlier, when the storm passes, it will be intensifying. So the winds could increase in Mumbai on the back side of the storm rather than the leading side.
This storm has always had a southern bias from the point it formed, in terms of wind, first in terms of winds, and now in terms of convection. But it seems like it's finally going to start wrapping that around, and I would expect in the next couple of hours it will become quite uniform in terms of cloud top temperatures in the 4 quadrants.
Yeah, and those people who were thinking about our schedule, wanting to know, I mean, we broadcast all across the world in many areas that receive tropical cyclone impacts, and it can get quite confusing with the time zones sometimes. But India is 5.5 hours ahead of UTC, which is what's displayed on our international streams on the bottom left-hand side. That's universal time. On our automated stream, we've actually set it to Indian Standard Time for convenience of those viewing, and that's what we'll be running with in a moment. So that's 5.5 hours ahead. So our next stream, I'm not sure when that will be, but it's about our next video update will be at midnight Indian time. So work back there, that's 6:30 p.m. UTC that we will have that next update, and then we will have a live tropical weather bulletin which will occur at 5:30 a.m. And then I imagine it's not going to be me, but other parts of the team will probably run another stream later in the morning like they did today.
I would like to point out something.
Yes.
Can you switch on? Switch my live stream.
Yes.
So you can, when you compare the radar imagery with the satellite imagery, you can actually, I'm actually confused right now. You can see there's a gap in here. We thought it was dry air, but if we look at the satellite imagery, we can see that the line here and here is actually corresponds to here and around here.
You seen that, Kay?
This little line feature there.
Yeah.
Just off the coast.
Yeah, if we compare the coast and the satellite and also the radar, you can see the gap in radar is actually something. So it was
there is definitely something there, and it's trying to make its way to the core. It's obviously hard to say whether or not the core will get disrupted. If it is, that'll slow intensification.
Yes.
In the short term. I don't foresee any long-term impacts from this, but it would appear that some dry air is in the circulation at this time.
Fascinating. Well, we're going to
There's also a big burst of convection that's actually fired inland, just north of Goa. With
I think we're seeing that. Hold on. Yeah.
Minus 87 tops. And that's going to be moving north, feeding into this and bringing continued heavy rainfall along coastal regions.
And with that, we're going to be ending our commentary at this point. Thanks to Kay and everyone else who took part in today's stream. Still with us, Walter, Joey, the phone expert, and Mike. Thanks for being with us during this serious situation. We will have more live updates and recorded updates on the Force 13 channel over the next few hours, and we will probably have a much more exhaustive coverage tomorrow. Just to finish off some questions there, when will the cyclone strike Mumbai, and will it be strong or not, or will it be just rainfall? You will probably get moderate tropical storm force winds, and that will be overnight into tomorrow morning. And can we expect 100 kilometers per hour wind in Mumbai? I would say that that cannot be ruled out. You're probably going to be near the edge of 100 km/h sustained winds. That would be my expectation for Mumbai as it is coming into tonight, and wind speeds will probably be the highest on the backside of the storm after the eye has made its closest pass. So you can find out the latest schedule and the latest satellite imagery and every bit of information on our automated stream, which if you're on youtube.com/force13/live, that will take you there as soon as we finish here in just a moment, and we'll see you again soon. It is a serious storm causing serious consequences, particularly along the coast, but also inland with rainfall impacts. It's one that you need to watch very close for. We'll be back again with more coverage soon. Good night for now.